everybody, and welcome to our deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking about Cane Corso tracking and trailing techniques.
Sounds good.
You sent us an episode of the Cane Corso podcast,
Right.
and there was just a ton of really great stuff in there.
Yeah. It's a great topic.
It is.
Mhm.
It is. I mean, you think about Cane Corsos, and you think about these big, powerful guard dogs.
Yeah, protection. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But, they have these amazing noses and intelligence to go with it.
Yeah, they're very smart dogs.
And so, getting them into tracking just seems like such a natural fit for that breed.
Yeah, I think it goes back to their history.
Oh, yeah.
They were bred to work. They were bred to hunt. They were bred to use those noses
Cool.
to problem solve,
Yeah.
Tracking isn't just a hobby. It's like giving them a job that speaks to their very core.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk gear.
Okay.
The podcast mentioned
Mm-hmm.
a harness, a long lead flags or markers,
Right.
scent articles and treats, or a toy. But what is it about the harness, though?
So the harness is really important for a couple of reasons. Comfort's a big one, obviously.
Right.
But, Cane Corsos are powerful dogs.
Yeah.
So when they catch a scent and they start pulling, you don't want all that force on their neck.
Oh.
A harness that's designed specifically for tracking it distributes that pressure across their chest and shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
which lets them really lean into the scent without any restriction.
So it's like, almost like giving them the freedom to use their nose.
Exactly. It's all about setting them up for success.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so then, we've got the gear. We're ready.
Right.
What are the first steps, for getting started?
So the actual training, it's kind of like setting up a treasure hunt for your dog.
Okay.
You start by introducing them to a specific scent, something that they're going to love finding.
So like a favorite toy or a smelly treat or something like that.
Exactly. And you build that association.
Okay.
Scent equals reward. Then you start with short, simple tracks, just a few steps, maybe drop some treats along the way, and then the irresistible scented article at the end, so they get that instant gratification.
Okay, so they're learning to associate that scent with the reward.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you go from, just a couple of steps to an actual track?
It's all about gradual progression.
Okay.
As your Corso gets the hang of it,
Right.
you lengthen the tracks, you add some gentle curves.
Yep.
Picture them weaving through a field nose to the ground, totally in the zone.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it can't all be, grassy fields, right?
Right.
What about different surfaces?
That's where it gets really interesting. You want to make sure that they can track on anything, grass, dirt, gravel,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even some pavement.
Oh, wow.
It's about building versatility, making them adaptable trackers.
So they're not just following a scent, they're really learning to
Right.
problem solve and read the environment.
You got it.
Wow.
And then comes the real test. Turns. Instead of just a straight line, the scent trail now has twists and turns.
Mm-hmm.
This forces them to really use their nose and their brain to figure out where that scent is going.
So it's like they're piecing together clues to figure out which way the suspect went.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and that really tests their focus.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So they've mastered the basics now. What?
Well, now we can start introducing some truly advanced techniques.
Okay, give me an example.
Aged tracks.
Okay.
Where the scent is faint, it requires a lot more concentration.
Oh, wow.
Or cross tracks.
Okay.
Imagine multiple scents intersecting like a crossroads.
Whoa.
And your Corso has to decide, based on the strength of the scent and the age of the scent, which path to follow.
Hold on, cross tracks. That sounds incredibly challenging.
It is.
I'd love to hear more about how that works.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the next part of our deep dive.
So cross tracks, you were saying that's like where all these different scents are coming together.
Yeah, it's like a scent crossroads.
Okay.
Imagine dropping your keys in a busy park. Mm-hmm.
There's all these scents swirling around, but your Corso needs to zero in on your scent on those keys.
Got it.
And that's the challenge of the cross tracks.
Mm-hmm.
They have to analyze, they have to discriminate.
Oh.
They have to put those scent receptors to work.
Yeah, so it's a real mental workout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where I think understanding the Cane Corso's unique strengths and weaknesses,
Right.
it really comes in.
Okay.
They're incredibly driven,
Yeah.
powerful dogs,
Powerful.
which is fantastic for tracking,
Uh-huh.
but it can also be a challenge.
So you're saying all that power, you really got to channel it correctly.
Yes. Especially when they get a whiff of something exciting and they want to just take off.
All right.
Strength management is crucial with this breed.
Okay.
We talked about the harness,
Yeah.
but it's also about teaching impulse control.
I see.
But their nose is saying go, go, go,
Mhm.
but their brain needs to say, hold on, let's analyze this first.
Okay, so you're not just teaching them to track, you're teaching them to think while they track. Exactly. You're building that mental stamina.
Yeah. Are there specific techniques for that?
Absolutely. The Cane Corso podcast episode actually had some great tips on this.
Oh, good.
One that stood out to me was using a whoa command.
Okay.
As your Corso is tracking, you randomly stop them and give the whoa command, and you reward them for staying still and focused.
Even though they want to go.
Even though that scent is right there tempting them.
So you're building their ability to resist that temptation?
Exactly.
To think before they act.
Right. And just like with physical stamina, you start small. You build up gradually.
It's interesting because, we always think about training as teaching these very specific skills.
Right.
But it's really also about shaping their mindset.
Absolutely.
It's interesting.
And with Cane Corsos, that strong-willed, that independent nature can actually be a real asset in tracking.
Oh, how so?
Well, they're not afraid to think for themselves.
Yeah.
To problem solve.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you want in a tracker.
Right. But there's got to be a balance.
Oh, for sure.
Because too much independence, and they're going to be off chasing squirrels.
Exactly. Which brings us to another important aspect of training, a Cane Corso.
Okay, what's that?
Finding their unique motivator.
Okay.
Some are food-driven, some are all about the toy, and some really thrive on just praise and affection.
So it's really about knowing your dog.
Exactly.
And what makes them tick.
And using that to your advantage in training.
Oh, yeah. The Cane Corso podcast made a good point about that, too. Sometimes the best reward is actually just letting them continue tracking.
Yes.
So the activity itself is the reward.
Exactly. It speaks to their natural instincts.
I love that.
You're not just training them, you're giving them an outlet to express those instincts.
Yeah.
In a really positive and constructive way.
And I bet that strengthens your bond in such a unique way.
It does. It's more than just commands and obedience. You're working together as partners. You're communicating through these subtle cues, reading each other's body language. It's really a dance, a collaboration. And it builds that trust and understanding on a whole other level.
I love it. I love it. But, not every session's going to be perfect, right?
Of course not.
What are some common mistakes people make when they're first starting out?
One of the biggest mistakes is rushing the process. Having unrealistic expectations.
Well,
tracking is mentally and physically demanding. It takes time, patience, and consistency.
So don't get discouraged if it's not happening right away.
Exactly. Another mistake is being inconsistent with rewards.
Okay.
Or not recognizing when your Corso is getting frustrated or tired. You always want to end on a positive note.
Okay.
Even if that means shortening the session or simplifying the track.
So we're really paying attention to them.
Yes.
And making sure they're enjoying it.
Exactly. You're building their confidence and making tracking a positive association.
I like that. We've talked a lot about the benefits for the dog, but I think there are some really interesting mental and emotional benefits for the owner, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, we get so caught up in the technical aspects.
Right.
But, there's something deeper happening.
Yeah, it's about reconnecting with our dogs on a more primal level.
I love that.
Appreciating their unique abilities and instincts. And in doing so, I think it forces us to slow down.
Yeah.
To be present, to really observe and listen to our dogs.
It's like a mindfulness practice almost.
Exactly.
You're forced to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Focus on all those little subtleties of scent and movement and communication.
It can be incredibly grounding and rewarding.
For both of you.
Yes. But, we've only scratched the surface here.
Okay.
Of the challenges and rewards that await in the world of these advanced tracking techniques.
Okay, so before we get there, you mentioned night tracking earlier.
Right.
I'm completely fascinated by that idea.
Yeah.
So what are the specific considerations and challenges and rewards of tracking in the dark?
Well, that brings us to the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, night tracking. It sounds so cool.
It is.
But a little intimidating, too.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, no sense of sight. Just relying on scent.
Right.
That must change everything.
It really does. The Cane Corso podcast episode, I think they said it best. It's like stepping into a whole other world.
Wow.
And it's amazing what it can do for your Corso in terms of tapping into their natural abilities.
Right, because, for them, scent is way more important than sight anyway.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in low light conditions.
So it's almost like we're leveling the playing field. Letting them use their strengths.
Yeah, you're giving them a chance to shine in an environment where their senses are really superior.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not just like, open the door, let them loose in the backyard at night, right?
Right. No.
There's more to it.
It takes even more trust, communication, and precision.
Oh, wow.
You have to be so in tune with your Corso's body language,
Yeah.
those subtle shifts in movement, how they're breathing as they work the scent.
Yeah, I bet that's hard to read in the dark.
It is. It's definitely a challenge.
So are there any specific techniques or things you have to adjust when you're tracking at night?
Well, safety is a big one.
Okay.
Make sure you have a good harness with reflective elements,
Mhm.
maybe even a headlamp for yourself
Okay.
so you can see where you're going.
Makes sense.
And be extra careful about hazards, things you might not see in the dark.
Right, like wildlife, uneven ground, stuff like that.
Exactly. You have to be on high alert.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Okay, but what about the tracking itself?
Right.
Does the scent behave differently at night?
You know, that's what's so fascinating. The podcast talked about how temperature and humidity
Yeah.
really affect scent trails, and those factors can change a lot at night.
It's almost like you're not just tracking, you're having to like predict
Right.
how the scent is going to behave.
Exactly. And that's where experience comes in.
Okay.
You start to notice those patterns, those little changes in your Corso's behavior
Okay.
that tell you, oh, they're catching a faint scent or the wind's carrying the scent that way.
So you're really learning and adapting together.
It's a true partnership.
Wow. Okay. Night tracking, definitely on the bucket list.
Good.
But, we were talking earlier about all those other advanced techniques.
Right.
Like age tracks and cross tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But the podcast also mentioned urban tracking,
Yes.
which I imagine is like next level
It is.
with all those distractions in a city.
Imagine your Corso trying to follow a scent trail through all that
Yeah.
exhaust fumes, food trucks, other dogs.
It's a lot.
They have to be so focused to block out all that noise and just follow that target scent.
So how do you train for that?
You build up gradually.
Okay.
You might start in a quiet park,
Mm-hmm.
then slowly add more urban elements,
Yeah.
busy sidewalks, street corners,
Okay.
places with lots of foot traffic.
And then you're rewarding them for staying focused.
Right. You're making those distractions part of the training.
So it's not about avoiding distractions. It's about teaching them to work through them.
Exactly. You're building their mental resilience, their ability to filter out all that noise and just focus on the task.
I bet those skills are useful for more than just tracking.
Oh, absolutely. A Corso that can stay focused in the city is going to be much easier to handle in everyday life.
That makes sense. So it's not just about, the thrill of the track.
Yeah.
It's about building a well-rounded dog
Exactly.
who can adapt to different situations.
Oh, that's the goal.
Wow. So we've covered a lot today.
We have.
From the basics, all the way to these really advanced techniques.
Yeah, I think we gave everyone a good overview.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Of what's involved.
I'm feeling super inspired.
Me too.
And I hope our listeners are too.
Yeah, I hope they're excited to get out there with their Corsos
Yeah.
and explore the world through their dog's nose.
And whether you're just starting out or you're already doing this,
Right.
there's always something new to learn.
Always.
So keep exploring, keep experimenting,
That's the key.
and most importantly, have fun.
Couldn't agree more. All right, everybody. Until next time, happy tracking.